noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video. Thank you. Well, everyone, before I get started, you guys know I don't go live Mondays of chemo, right? For the same reason you guys seen, I don't like to make a fool of myself, but the reason I went on the minute we started talking, it was irrelevant, right? So, anyways, thank you to everyone for that, and again, I apologize. Anyways, today I want to get into, you could say a wiggle we had amongst camaradas, right? It wasn't, in the beginning, it was nothing to do with Pilis. Of course, we were all tapped into a Pili, and, you know, we shared our angle out of respect, right? But it was more so our doings. And it's going to circle around of two individuals that would eventually get made, right? And the first one is Jaguar or Jaguar from Hawaiian Gardens. I was with the homie in Corcoran Shoe. And while we were there, we got validated around the same time, right? But I got validated off a AR shoe, and he came from a different prison, right? And anyways, for some reason, every time we would go out to the dog cages, we were near each other, right? The Hudas used to like playing games in the sense of, they hop around. For example, I was in three right. They get out a couple cells from A section, jump to C section, come back to B section, and like that. So it would constantly rotate, right? And it was more so, I guess, for us not to start building anything or get too familiar, right? But it's just the way they think, right? It goes back to when they started sending the members to the feds, right? Oh, that's gonna stop things. It just opened up a whole new faction, right? But anyways, for some reason, not every yard, but every third, fourth yard out there in the dog cages, I was next to the homie, right? So we out there for a while at times, cause Corcoran was real famous in the sense of, we're supposed to go out every other day, but sometimes we would only go out once a week, but they would still give us the full time that we had to be out there for the week. So we'll be out there, right, in them dog cages and anyways, to the point. At the time that we were back there, we got familiar, right? There was a couple times actually. Fox was nearby, and old man Rolo, right? And again, different wiggles, different stories, but I was pretty pretty good, pretty cool with the Billies, right? At least in the sense of respect as the homie. He was known to do his thing on the streets, not just with his neighborhood, but with Norwalk and surrounding neighborhoods, right? Whittier and stuff. And anyways, that's where the trust really came amongst me and the camarada, right? Because for one, the Pilis that were there at the moment, he secured and co-signed the homie to me, and as myself to the homie, right? So, anyways, when the Pilis was there, a lot of things were said, right? Asked, for example, hey, Rolo, right? Can your family touch here and there? And I told him, yeah, just make sure you have it squared off and the funds are there, right? Because again, I started it off and none of that BS, right? Uh, and not to minimize the Billy and his wiggles, whatever, but I wasn't gonna do my family straight up, right? I wanted my family to get out their thing and enjoy the feria as the Billy enjoy the jale, right? So, anyways, that was just said, and he says he will get back at me. Fox wanted to work, but I'll be honest with you, I would have gotten in a wreck with my family because was doing things with Michoacan, and my family wouldn't have ever okayed it for me to bring that type of, people around them because at the moment there was tension, right? Or at least when the Templarios, excuse me, were big. Anyways, I don't want to make this long. So one day we're out there and the homie just, hey homie, let's make feria. You know, as far as we know, we got the okay from Pilis to make feria, right? And if he could really supply it, I could get it out and, we make feria and basically we give the Pilis our respects, right? For the same reason, in case someone burns us or ricochets where we're at, the Pilis, we could ask for them to bust for us, basically like a security blanket, right? So, anyways, the homie was about to go home at the time, right? So we set it up for him when he went home to. The best way was for him to present himself, right? Down in Baja, I won't say which city, but with my family and basically tell him I was in dark cases with uh with Chino and this and that. And this is what we want to do. The feria is for us. I don't go to a third party, and basically leave it at that, right? Again, I had a lot of problems with my family due to, I guess, the way of my thinking, which is I am what I am, and I apologize. You're my family. I love you, but I don't puddle hump or I don't bring the flag down for nothing, right? Again, my mentality was just there, and anyways, everything went good and small. We started small, and everything was firmes. Basically, he asked for permission at the end of the day from a Pili that was there in Corcoran, right? Which is that old man from Watts, and they worked their thing out, and basically they paid my family. My family looked out, type of thing, right? It was nothing like I was really in the mix. It was just like, hey, Chino, could you make it five? Could you get it when you're getting a visit? Oh, so and so. Hey, could you get the word out 10 and let me know what date and them type of things. So it was small. It never really went above 10, right? And it was cool because at the end of the day, I'm busted. And you guys know I don't like to get heavy on people. So whatever came in, it was good for store, right? And for those camaradas that didn't go to store, I'll send some feria on your books. We go half and half on your draw, right? I look out and I get a little bit more comida on the cell. For those who've been in the shoe, there it's tough there. You're constantly bored working out, and you need gasolina, right, to keep pushing. But anyways, I got off bounds. Within time, things got a little bit slow, right? With Jaguar, and not cause he got busted or anything, he was still there, but I got sent on that mission where I had to take out my celly, and then the courts, and trying to avoid him, and I got sent to the bay. Again, we were in Corcoran together, so he knew the routes, I knew the routes, so it was easy, right? But out in Corcoran, getting there was a lot going on, at least with myself. You know, some people were, buen trabajo, homie, te la aventaste, and others were mad for the reason that Nairo didn't do nothing wrong, and I agree with that. Artie decided he was taking space, right? He was doing nothing, he was just sitting there, but he's entitled to, right? He was going through personal stuff and he was entitled. And there's a lot of Pilis in every shoe, at least I met Pilis that they're there with the title, but they don't have the wiggles like that, right? So those were the ones that were more upset with me in the Bay. Besides that little power struggle they had amongst themselves and Artie, right? So the only thing I was concentrating on, to be sincere, was see where it's gonna lead, or try to get a celly and buck up, right? Get whacked, and whatever was coming after, man up. I pulled a Halle, I did everything right, and the consequences was just wait to see what would happen, right? Which I was assured by Raul and by others that nothing. I did everything right. I had all five signatures and everything right. But regardless, you know how it is. They don't need none of that or an excuse to get you wet. But anyways, in the base, it became I started doing things with the faction of San Diego, right? Basically, it was easier because well, at the moment, had a lot of family that went into Otay and lived in Chula Vista, you know. And sorry for the pause, everybody. It's just that damn game. But anyways, so it was just easier. And on the sincere, there was a lot of Pilis from SD, and they all moved as one, right? Sherm was the first one I started doing things with, and you know, Robert, his carnal, and Silent. Well, you guys know Cheeks was there too, and anyways, it started off like that, right? Then, for some reason, I got moved to the other side of the shoe. And the other side to the shoe, there was a real good camarada. From the heart, I say it, right? Which was the homie Bebo from Hawaiian Gardens. He had been back there many more years than myself, right? I believe since 95 or something like that. And this was 2006. Anyways, we're able to connect, and then the connection came through what was happening with Jaguar, right, in Corcoran, and he had heard of it because, well, I'll just put it to you like this: Bebo was a leader. Don't confuse the palabras as a member, as a leader. He was a leader. Literally, he was above that, asking if someone needed to get whacked, the type of work, who could do it, things that he was a leader, period, point blank, right? So, anyways, amongst discussions, he touched back with Hawad, and just Bevel alone, he was he was a heavyweight, man. I'll just say it like that, you know. Whenever I worked with the Pili, I concentrated on what we were doing to at that moment. You know, I didn't want to get sidetracked, for one, because I know where it leads, and two, I was smart, but I always had that insecurity of something going wrong, right? The homie didn't have that. He was literally doing things for 10, 15 pilis at the same time. So he was loved, right? So, anyways, at the time we figured everything out, and I said, I'm going to touch on show respect to Terco, right? Because again, I had fallen under Terco at many occasions, right? I felt comfortable showing love to him and covering my butt through him, right? And Bebo was going to do what he was going to do, and Jaguar was going to be basically the arms and legs outside, right? And everything went good, you know. It just went differently. You know, it wasn't 10 no more. It was 40, 60, you know, of them things. And it was every week, every other week. Things were good, you know. And the best part is how I say, you got to make yourself relevant, right? The Pilis didn't get involved. We resolved issues when they came without having to bother a Pili. And all they were doing was receiving, right? Which is what they want. And we didn't run across much problems, but two, three of them, and right away it's Bebo had that because we were in this area, and handled it. We didn't bother Pilis because it's like a job, right, on the street. Which boss wants to hire an individual that goes out and does a job and is constantly calling him, hey, I gotta nail this to the wall, but which angle I gotta angle the nail? Or hey, this board is too long. I need to cut it. Do you mind me doing it? And just for every little thing, you're constantly bothering them, right? It's the same concept, but the problems lied or stopped because one badger had already been made, right? And he wanted his piece. And Bebo being his homeboy, of course, you know, he had other angles to touch. But I didn't feel real comfortable at first. And then when I decided to just say I don't want to get involved because that's you and the Pilis, is when Jaguar got busted and he went out to the feds, right? In that Rico case that happened around '08, 9, something like that. And that was the person I trusted, not to minimize Bebo, right? Because after that, we kept a friend, nah, not a friendship, but being good camaradas, we shared ideas. He had a lot of clecha that till this day I took from him, right? And what I really liked about the homie was we had that same feeling, right? Different angles of thoughts towards it, but it was to not break a homie. You know, if someone has to go, the best way is a lifer to do it, right? S- Have the lifer step up to the plate. I know it's messed up because a lot of lifers, they want to go to war. They want to board. They want to get out. They want to do that. It's the same reason why a lot of lifers, because they're always up to bat, they end up going to the other side to find a parole, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. When it becomes wrong, is you don't go through the proper channels. I mean, you're there for being a campolero. Say you're walking away, get what you got coming like a man. And once you get what you got coming, you got grounds to tell the squad, hey, ya estuvo. Not be scared and go into that debriefing program because that brings a whole new cha-cha towards you. But anyways, that's besides the point. We shared a lot of thoughts, and again, I picked up a lot of clecha from homie. And the reason I wanted to touch on this is because this is real current, right? Or I'm not gonna say how current or whatever, but rumors are he finally got the blessings, right? And but them blessings, he when we were there doing things, he wasn't a lifer. He had a grip of time, but he had a date. At the moment, I was a lifer, so you know, it was two different angles being shared, right? Me as a lifer, I assure you, I didn't mind if there was three camaradas. If we were there, two of them had dates. I'll handle it. I'll boogie. Hey, homie, just go to that side of the yard. I'll handle it. You know, DA ain't going to pick it up on me, type of thing. But anyways, I went to the feds and I heard the homie he went to Folsom, right, New Folsom, and is when things started circling around. And I'm not putting this on the homie, right? Don't misread into my words. It's what circle around, and well, I'll just say I have real close individuals we work from the shoe out to the main line, right? That were there in the same yard, and I understand the Pilis are there right with them, but the one calling the cuetazos was Bebo, right? And it's because he's always been a leader, right? That person, right? To take charge on things, and but since he caught life, don't know if it snapped something in him or it was just who was there with him, right? Because that's where the confusion comes in, at least with me, him being appealing, not being able to basically say, Charlie, you do it, handle it. But there's been a couple cases where he put out a mandate towards everyone that everyone has to step up to bat, regardless if you got a week to the house, if you got a month, a day, your name came up, you were going to go handle business. And the new rules and are you going to handle business? You're not going to go scratch a person, right? So that came as a surprise, and I wonder what went different. But it goes to the message I always put out, for those that haven't been there. You could go there for your homie, for your neighborhood, and showing him love, backbone, representing him because he's not present, whatever, all that get down. But what I want you to understand, for example, here, I'm telling you, I was there. We shared thoughts. The homie, those weren't his beliefs, but at least six people told me he was serious about this, right? I'm talking about had homies pull missions and pick up a grip of time for them, and him knowing they had a date and it's a 180, right? There's a lot of lifers, but they're the ones that surround themselves with protecting the Bealies, right? But it's like I always tell you, this is just a little look on that. There could be someone that's a good Bealie, that's a good homie, that has a good heart, mind towards the raza, the movement. But when you have others around you and you get up there, there's only one way that you will survive in that, and that's to have that tecato mentality. So I understand he had to roll with the punches, or else he was going to start being looked at negatively, like he was going against. And being a lifer, finally making it, and to start getting politic like you're going against, of course, the homie ain't going to go against. He's going to roll with the punches, right? And, but that's the end look on this one, the message. I met two righteous camaradas from Hawaiian Gardens. One went to the feds. He got made. He's out there. Bebo, he did a lot of shoot time, right? He held positions a lot of Billies did not held as a camarada. He gets out the shoe, finally gets made, and he has to do a whole 180 on his beliefs. Because maybe this isn't the right word, but I'll say he fears the repercussions of not acting in them ways as those other vatos. It's better to roll with what is there to stay than to do something that you know you're going to be out the door. So again, don't gamble. Love your homies. But I bet you a homie, take it from an ex-lifer. It's worth a lot more when you shoot him on a pila letter. Hey homie, aquí estamos todavía. I want you to know there's people out here that love you. I know you're going through your things, and do know you have people here still. Then you giving up your life to go join something that in reality ain't there. Stay true to those that deserve it. I always say it, to the movement even. But be smart. Stay true to yourself, loyal to your loved ones.